should Heavy be able to choose his melee weapon, or at the very least, be able to choose his parry window timing? So the other day I was scrolling through the workshop. I saw two mods I want to talk about. I'll talk about both of them, but one I'll talk about for a little bit. And it's called Expanded Arsenal. And TLDR, this particular mod eliminates a lot of the class limitations on the weapon side. So for example, tactical can use Thunderhammer, you know, you can use Power Sword, Power Axe, almost about everything except the Omnisign Axe. And same with Heavy, you know, Heavy could equip any weapon, which was really jarring. And I wanted to do a quick little run with a combat knife, with the Argent's Edge knife. I was really excited to try the combat knife on my Heavy, you know, just to see, or give me a what if scenario. The whole point of this run, I just wanted to live out that what if scenario. Shout out to Happy Man Poo Poo Fish for this mod. And you know, I was looking through the description of this mod. He specifically said not to throw shade at Saber, and I admire that. I like that a lot. He says he also works pretty close with the dev team, so that's pretty interesting. I'm sure he has a lot of knowledge about what's going to be going on with the future of this game. This is a great mod, by the way, if you want to check it out if you're on PC. You know, hopefully with patch 15, they'll introduce mods to our console players so they can get a hold of this. This mod gave me the opportunity to really live out that what if scenario. And for me, that what if scenario is Heavy being able to get access to melee weapons. And so, you know, I looked at this as a little experiment just to see how the run would go. You know, I ran with a regular primary that you usually pick in Heavy, same with the secondary. You know, I kept that vanilla. The melee weapon, you know, I used Argent's Edge, went through the whole run with it, and it's very strong. I'll tell you right now, that is very strong. For the second mod I'm going to be running is going to be holstered weapons. This mod is also made by the same person of Expanded Arsenal, Happy Man Poo Poo Fish. That's a crazy name, by the way. And this is a pretty smaller mod compared to the other mod. You know, it just makes your melee weapon visible on your character. I think it looks absolutely amazing. I know it's considered smaller, but I think it does add so much more pizzazz to this game. Being able to see that your weapon, you know, able to see your teammates' weapons. Oh, also with this mod, you're also able to see the relic if you picked one up, visible on your character, so it shows up like right on the butt cheeks of your Space Marine. Same with the Gene Seed. It's pretty neat. I think it adds a lot, and you know, hopefully maybe we'll see it come to the vanilla game one day. I think it might. I would love to hear from everybody else what they think about this idea of Heavy, you know, getting that melee weapon, having a different parry window. I know we kind of got a taste of that with Chains of Duty, being able to really make it permanent. Because I really like running Chains of Duty. I think it's a great weapon. You know, giving you that fencing window is pretty huge on Heavy. What do you guys think? Do you think if we gave Heavy a melee weapon or give him the choice of his parry window, what do you guys want to see from, you know, that rework that Saber has hinted at in a couple community posts? I'm gonna be super biased here about Heavy. Heavy is my first class that I really, I guess you can say, took the game pretty seriously. Like, I remember the introduction to hard stratagems. You know, I was taking my Heavy into every hard strat I could find. You know, I mean, he's like my number one. I was doing okay with him. You know, I was able to get through operations, get through hard strats, do siege mode with him. You know, he did it all. But, you know, after the release of Tech Marine, I want to see more variety on Heavy. Like, I want to see a little more diversification in his build, because right now I think he's very one-noted. Like, he can put out so much range damage. Sometimes you don't always want to do a ranged build. Like, you want to have that option to do something different. Chains of Duty does help with that. So right off the bat, when I started this run, you know, having that melee weapon was pretty huge. I wasn't doing a lot of combat combos. I use it more for the utility, you know, getting parries off, not really focusing on doing melee damage. I don't think if Heavy did get the choice of having a melee weapon, that would completely fix him. I think it has to do more with his overall kit and a lot of his team perks and his prestige perks. Okay, let's talk about his team perk really quick. Bonds of Brotherhood. I used to run that perk a lot, and I realized that right now with how the game is and it's throwing a bunch of ranged enemies at you, I think encompassing Aegis is so much better. Just a flat out damage reduction compared to what if your teammate goes down, you know, they get full health, you know, if they find a stim, they only have to use one stim to clear their mortal wound instead of having to use two. For hard stratagems, there's a modifier. If your teammates do end up going down, they don't receive mortal wounds, and I love to bring Bonds of Brotherhood for that. I think that's actually really strong. So if you need to heal, like, just down yourself, you know, you just get fully healed, no mortal wound, you know, it's not that big of a deal. Additional supplies. I like additional supplies. It's deceiving. It's a deceiving team perk because if you play with others, like I do a lot, what if a melee class on your team, what if you get a bulwark? He's not going to be able to take advantage of additional supplies. What if you get a bulwark and an assault on your team? Both of them don't get it to take an advantage of the team perk because it doesn't affect secondaries. It only affects primaries. You know, assault, bulwark, no primaries. It only affects you. Because I know with Heavy that he does get low on ammo for his primary. So, you know, having that a little bit of ammo does help and it goes a long way, but I think I'd rather have encompassing Aegis. You know, it's going to affect your whole team. Everyone takes advantage of it, not just you. That's how I look at it. You know, it's Heavy. You know, that's kind of how I look at it. Heavy's like, you know, your big brother, you know, like he's going to come in, you know, support the team. That's just me. Overall, I do think Heavy is in a really good spot and like in a really positive spot, actually. You know, I love seeing Heavy on the team, you know. I know he's going to put out a lot of range damage, you know, give his teammates cover, you know, the whole shebang, have a pretty decent team perk. If you're running encompassing Aegis, Bonds of Brotherhood is okay too, but Bonds of Brotherhood is something that you really don't want to happen. You know, it's a little misleading. Well, you know, if your teammates are going down, then, you know, it's kind of fighting an uphill battle, you know. So hopefully after the tactical rework that they're going to end up working on my boy Heavy, he definitely needs some perks looked at, you know, some adjusted, or overall some of his perks just rework. In my opinion, I really do think that one day we will be able to equip a melee weapon on Heavy, you know, with the way that things are going right now at Saber, you know, how they're kind of cutting restrictions. You know, we can clearly see that with cosmetics and stuff. You know, we saw that with the Thunderhammer coming to Bulwark. You know, that was a really nice feature. You know, I think that it's always nice to give a class more options. You know, I think that could possibly happen one day with Heavy. When new updates come out, I especially get very excited for the heroic weapons because I know heroic weapons end up giving classes so much more options, like the combi flamer. You know, sniper and vanguard get access to a flame weapon finally, but right now that it is slacking a little bit and it seems like it's bugged again since they fix it from the PTS. So hopefully next week we'll get a hot fix for that. I do think Saber is gonna, you know, kind of ease up. I mean, you know, anything's kind of on the table right now, you know, with Chaos Siege in the works. You know, there have been so many times where they have said that, you know, if we would have added Chaos Siege, we would have done it a long time ago. And look what's happening, you know, and that might be coming to patch 15. You know, we've seen a lot of leaks so far. We've seen some animations or execution animations for Ultramarines. You know, we've seen it is so possible that one day they really will lift this restriction on Heavy. Again, shout out to these modders, man. I was looking at the Astartes overhaul on the workshop, and right now I don't think it's working for Steam. But if you really want it, you can go to Nexus Mods and get it there. I guess it's like buggy right now. And, there's a few workarounds. Yeah, so hopefully, when that gets fixed. I was reading the description for the Stardies overhaul. They said they need a fix from Saber about it. So, hopefully they get that done and done. I'm pretty excited to try that out. I know I can just get it from Nexus Mods, but it really is so much more convenient on Workshop. And hopefully one day we'll see that with the console players, get a hold of the mods, because I mean, that mod support, man, it's gonna add so much longevity to the game. I mean, we've seen it from time to time, like one of the best examples of, the modding community, Skyrim. Boom. That's all I gotta say. Absolutely amazing. I mean, that game still gets so many mods today. I mean, amazing. Amazing work from them, really. Appreciate it.
Heavy bioactivity from the target.